I can either just dive into all the different categories of intellectual property, or I can open it up to questions. What are you gonna say?
There's one question that I know we're both really interested in, and that is licensing. Like when you have a copyrighted work, what does that look like in terms of, this person wants to use it in their whatever movie, art gallery, theatrical performance, et cetera, et cetera?
Licensing agreements can be written in pretty much any way that you want them to be written. So if you want to sell your musical piece for a certain dollar amount every time they play it in the movie, you can do that. You can give them an across-the-board license where they just have the rights to use it whenever, and that's just a one flat fee, and then they go from there. So they can be structured any way that you want them to.
Okay.
The trick with copyright in that case is that you would want to register it.
I guess the only other challenge is I don't know what the price points that people are doing that kind of stuff at, and I have nowhere to gauge. Do you have any resources as to what other people are charging other people?
Yeah, it's not really. It's, it's basically whatever the you can get it for.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with Hollywood, they're going to be able to pay a lot more. If you've got somebody who has a very low budget, they're not going to be able to pay more. So it really just depends on what the two parties agree to, and we've seen everything.
So is it able to be something where you have almost like a tiered structure, like 10 plays for X amount,
right.
1,000 plays for whatever, and then
right.
like a yearly subscription, and that's unlimited within that year or whatever?
Yeah, it really can be any of those. It depends on what the parties want.
Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, so the only place that I can tell you to search would be the internet to see, but it's probably going to give you stuff that's wildly across the board. I mean, someone like Eminem can probably charge a lot more money for his music than somebody that's just starting up out of their garage.
We're mostly interested in trying to figure out patenting, the process and what in which to take. We're still in like you said, the preliminary research.
Right.
Process. So we're trying to figure that portion out, make sure that we can patent the product that we're looking to do so.
Okay.
And then of course go from there.
Right.
Is that smart to do or?
Yeah, patenting is always a good idea if you've got a patentable invention. So I can back up a little bit and talk about patentable subject matter. It includes basically any invention, like an iPad. That is an iPad, right?
Yep.
Just a little guy. An iPad, air conditioner. The automobile was patentable at one point. So it covers articles of manufacture, compositions of matter, methods, and anything. For the most part, it has to be tangible. In some cases, there's software that can be patentable and computer methods that can be patentable, but usually it's tangible materials.
I'm sorry, not to cut you off. What about ingredients?
So that would fall under composition of matter unless it gets a little bit confusing. Something along the lines of Rich Products non-dairy creamer is patentable, but a recipe for chocolate chip cookies would not be patentable.
Right.
So if you can figure out which one it falls into without disclosing it, then
Sure.
then that would be good.
The process in which we should take in different outlets. Maybe we don't have to get a patent. Maybe it's some other gateway or a segue that we can use to try and protect the product.
The only other thing that you could use would be trade secret.
Okay.
WD-40 is a great example of something that's covered by trade secret. So the composition, nobody really knows what the composition is, and they've been using it for years, and they've been protected that way. The recipe for Coca-Cola is another trade secret, and then also the recipe for the secret sauce for Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I don't know how it works. I think they've got different people working in the factory, and they know two ingredients, but they don't ever get together.
That's a good point. I always wondered that.
Right.
Yeah. It's like someone's got to know it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So the downs, so a trade secret, that it doesn't cost anything. It lasts as long as it's a secret. The downside is if somebody figures out what you've done, or if it somehow becomes not a secret, then there's really not much you can do. There are some lawsuits you might be able to file depending, but if somebody just reverse engineers what you've made, then
It's no.
yeah, then you're sort of out in the cold.
You want to say SOL. It's not.
So the best bet will to go through and try and patent.
Right. Usually, the patent protection does buys you a lot of protection, and it keeps the reasonably prudent business person away from stealing your idea, or your invention rather. In terms of the process, there are two different types of patent applications that can be filed. There's a provisional patent application and a non-provisional patent application. The non-provisional is easy because that's where you're actually asking the government for a grant of intellectual property. You've got all the information in there that you need, and everything is covered. The provisional can be done before the non-provisional, and what that does is it's sort of a placeholder. It buys you 1 year to file the non-provisional patent application, which is the regular patent application. The provisional is a little bit cheaper, it's a little bit quicker, it doesn't have all the legal requirements that the non-provisional has, and you get it on file. Within a year you have to file the non-provisional. It's never examined at the patent office, it just sits there holding a place. The upside is that it gets you a filing date. So you can, if you've got your composition of matter, you can go out and sell it, you can test the market, you can advertise it as patent pending and see if there's interest out there. So, ideally you file the provisional patent application, you go out there, everybody's super interested in it, you make a lot of money, and then that helps you pay for the non-provisional patent application. The other case is you file the provisional patent application, you market it, nobody's interested, they tell you it's terrible, they hate it, and then you spend a little bit of money, but not as much. And then the worst case is if it's somewhere in the middle, where there's some interest, but not as much as you had hoped, and then you've got to make the decision. And you see that a lot too, because a year is not a very long time.
Right.
So, and then the other thing is, the non-provisional can't just be filed in 1 day, so we need a couple months to put it together. So the 1 year is not truly a year. It's maybe 8 to 9 months.
Okay.
So,
Which is
and it goes by so fast.
You make out your business plan, you get everything set up, you figure out your situation. Do you want to figure out all of those inquiries before, and including the loan that you'll probably need to start your business, and then look to
Filing the provisional?
or the non-provisional, the provisional, yeah.
Yeah.
Or,
The patent attorneys are always going to tell you to file your provisional patent application as soon as possible.
okay.
Because if somebody comes along and invents the same exact thing and they get on file before you do, then you're out in the cold, or...
Yeah.
SOL.
So yeah, you're stuck if you miss your filing date. So depending on what you have, maybe there's a very low chance that anyone else would invent it, but if it's in the software world where people are doing a lot of inventing constantly, then it's a bit more of an urgent race to the patent office. In terms of, I'm not sure if you were asking about putting the dollar amount in your loan request, or if you were just talking about the business plan in general.
The business plan in general, of course, and then of course when I meant the loan, I meant actually having the loan
Right.
set so that you can implement your business.
Right. Okay.
Yep, and then of course so that it gives you more time to test out your.
Right, yeah, your market and see if people have interest. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's probably not the best way to do so.
To get the loan first?
Yeah, to make sure you have everything set up, and then you to look to do your.
And then do your provisional?
Based on my question, can you find a way to that point without disclosing your?
You can try and get the bank to sign a non-disclosure agreement. They probably won't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it probably would be difficult to submit a loan application that's redacted without all the information there. From the standpoint of the bank, they may be impressed to see that you filed a provisional patent application, because then they see that you've invested in yourself and you're taking yourself seriously. It largely depends on your situation.
Okay.
I always advocate filing that provisional as soon as you can. But then, having a nice dinner to celebrate, and then the next morning back to the pots of coffee and get to work.
Right. Yeah.
Because that year goes so fast. With, like you mentioned, I mean, this is the interesting thing in the business world. You watch Shark Tank and they come on there, oh, I've got a patent and I did this and it looks so easy, and oh, here's your $1 million. But the thing is, there are so many different steps to being a business owner that it's wonderful that you've already spoken to the Small Business Development Center, because as a small business, you can't be all things to all people. You can't be your own accountant, be the inventor, be the designer, the prototyper, the marketer. You can't do all those things. You have to get people in to help you. So the Small Business Development Center and Bill Griesover in particular are wonderful resources. They've got so much knowledge and they can point you where you need to be pointed. So I'm assuming you'll continue to work with them, and I hope that you do. But that's actually another reason that we do Pirate Fight Club, because the intellectual property part is a little bit difficult. But the other things that our businesses and our inventors have had to encounter over the years can be it can be challenging. And so just to let people know that there are those other things out there that might end up being roadblocks.
My question, I guess, is more, as far as like intellectual property.
Mhm.
So for instance, I've been wanting to write a book for the longest time, and I already know that I want to make it into, I don't know if a series is the right description, or like a tagline. So for instance, like chicken soup for the soul,
Right.
those books, they have all sorts of versions of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I was just curious if I trademark
This
the
is
title, tagline.
This is a phenomenal question, because it's a strange one. Typically, you cannot trademark the title of the book, but if it's a series, you can. So, Chicken Soul for this
Chicken noodle
soup for the soul.
For the blank soul. It depends on
yes.
which one it is, teenage soul, kid soul.
Yeah, so that can be
String butter
trademarked. The other one is, intellectual property for dummies, the For Dummies series, that can be trademarked. So if it is a
Okay.
series, it can be trademarked. But if it's just a title of a book like Little Women, you wouldn't be able to trademark that.
Would you have to have at least 2 books already instated
Yeah.
in order to do that? I was just curious.
You'd be able to file the application before that, because you kind of want to
The
lock down.
intent is the series.
Yeah, you would want to lock down your rights before anything happens.
So as long as the idea is to have a series, you
Right.
can at least file.
Yeah,
Before
get
that's
something
all.
on file.
Oh, that's awesome. And then along those same lines, what about PowerPoints, just giving presentations? You know, people will put copyright on the bottom. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know if you just take your chances.
Copyright is interesting because it covers original works of authorship. So a phone book, for example, which I don't know why they still print those things, but a phone book, it's a listing of people's names, addresses. It's done alphabetically. There's no copyright in there. It's all fact. So if your PowerPoint has more than fact in it, and if it's got photographs in it, then it's very likely that it's eligible for copyright. Copyright attaches as soon as the work is placed in a tangible medium. So if you've got a song and you record it on a tape recorder, I'm 95 years old, I have tape recorders, or you record it on your iPhone or your smartphone, then that's a tangible medium, you can play it back. So the copyright automatically attaches. It's very unusual in the intellectual property world for the intellectual property to attach automatically. The benefit to registration is if you ever need to enforce your copyright. So you register it with the United States Library of Congress, Copyright Office. It's about $35 for an individual to do so. It's fairly inexpensive. I'm an attorney and I very rarely say this about legal work, but it's fairly straightforward. It's not all that difficult. In most cases, for people that need copyright, I encourage them to do it themselves, because for us to charge them, it gets a little bit expensive. So, so the benefit of copywriting is if you do need to enforce it, you may be able to send out a cease and desist letter if somebody's using your photograph, and then you don't have to take the step of going to court. If you do need to take the step of going to court, that gets very expensive. So a cease and desist letter is good if it works.
Yeah.
For artists, what I typically tell them in terms of registering, I have one lady, she did metal sculptures. And, you know, for her to do each individual one would have been just cost prohibitive. She had one that was very near and dear to her heart, and we registered that one. It had a lot of emotional meaning, and then the other ones were sort of pieces for other people. So we registered that one, and then she doesn't worry about the other ones. For copyright, there is another option. If you've got a group of works together, you can register them as a group. So if you're a photographer, you might take all of your, you know, fourth quarter 2017 photos and just register them all as a group. And then you can do that for $35. So that it works out nicely. Put copyright with your name, all rights reserved, 2017, and then that should suffice.
And would it need to be on every single page, or just the or?
Just the title page.
Yeah, I think just the title page should be fine. And then you see it on websites too. And the websites I think usually are all on the bottom because it's probably just how the templates work.
Yeah, we've been in business since 2013.
Okay.
But recent events, we're trying to change to sole proprietor for myself or LLC.
Okay.
And it's just the process of becoming an LLC is kind of confusing to me. I was doing some research on it this morning, and it's not the first time, but the publication thing, that's the one that really
Oh yeah.
I don't understand. So you file a name, you get the name, and then you have to be published in 5 newspapers within 90 days or something like that.
It's 2 newspapers within 6 months over, I believe it's 6 weeks, and it's one of the newspapers has to be daily and the other one has to be weekly.
I really would love to understand the why behind that. I mean, and I don't know if that process
I can
is
answer
like,
that
but-
question. The newspaper industry is unwilling to let that go because they make money on it.
Of course.
And it's a great question. Nobody really knows why there's the publication requirement.
Yeah.
And nobody pays attention to it, nobody reads
It
it.
makes you so much more official.
So, but the incorporations don't have this requirement.
Which ones?
The INCs, the regular corporations. So Mike and Caitlin, you're a DBA partnership, is that what you are?
Currently, yeah. We're literally going to turn
Yes.
into a sole proprietor after this meeting.
Wait, so you're splitting off?
We're still working together.
Yes. But you want to keep your...
Only because I've been financially backing everything.
Yes.
Okay.
I've
I'm trying to
been
open it
providing
now, it's-
technical support and working and services and stuff,
Yeah.
but he's the brain and funds behind
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
So it's easier to have him just be that person and I just kind of work for him.
Yeah.
Okay, so are
We
you...
kind of just collaborate.
Yeah.
So you're going to work for him or become your own sole proprietorship?
For this business that we're doing, I'll work for him.
Okay. So you're gonna have employees?
She's not gonna work for me as an employee.
Okay, so you're gonna
We're literally
come.
just gonna work collaboratively on
Right.
like recording music.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna pay her as a contractor.
Basically,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
And love and
Pizza.
I'm just very nosy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason we went into a partnership is because I thought I had to pay her as an employee if she worked with me, but then I found out that an employee is really if you tell them to be there from 5 to 9.
Yeah,
whatever.
you do have to be very careful with the contractor rules. You should be able to find them online with the IRS. Just be very careful about making sure that she's not an employee.
Right.
And what you're doing is, what's your business focused on?
It's multimedia entertainment
Okay.
in a nutshell.
And then
Basically.
you're contracting her to do.
Work with like audio,
Okay.
creative development stuff.
Okay, it sounds like you're probably okay from the contracting position rather than employment, but just go find those rules on the IRS. Print them up and look at them every couple of weeks, honestly, because that's where you can get really hammered from, either New York State, because you're not paying the unemployment insurance and all the workers' comp and insurances.
Right.
And also the IRS.
Why did you say to look at them every few weeks?
Just to
to
remember
everything.
Because if the circumstances change between
Okay.
them, like
If it
okay,
bleeds over into being
Right.
an employee situation.
and
or
the
whatever
thing
else,
is,
it's not.
from the standpoint of an LLC or an incorporation, hiring somebody isn't actually that big of a deal. You will have to pay unemployment insurance. It's not all that much. You'll have to pay a little bit of workers' comp. It's not a lot of money. There are people out there. We use Allen Street Consulting. They'll help you set up payroll and everything. It is an added cost. So if you're right at the margins, then
I am like 18,000 in the hole. I'm nowhere.
if you're underneath the margins, then that can be difficult. But if at some point you need to cross over the boundaries of one of those requirements, then
Maybe after this year, possibly.
yeah.
I would
So
love to pay employees.
Right.
I
right,
have a family of people and I could just
Right.
give money to all the time.
yeah. But it's something to consider because they can
Penalize you.
put the hammer down on you pretty good.
And you might be SOL.
Yeah. And so you're dissolving your DBA partnership, just doing a regular DBA sole proprietorship,
Right.
and then possibly converting to an LLC.
Possibly if the benefits seem to be there. I don't really know exactly. That's the part where it's kind of wishy-washy.
I'm a huge advocate of an LLC, and the reason is that most of your liability goes into the LLC. So I'm not sure where you're working. Are you working from home? Okay, well, let's say if you're working from home.
Yeah, working from home.
Yeah, if you're working from home and you have deliveries, somebody comes and the UPS person delivers something and slips and falls, and then the lawsuit's against you personally. If something like that happens but you have an LLC, the lawsuit's against the LLC. There usually is business insurance because that's another expense. And then the business owner's policy would pay for that, and then you just kind of walk away from it. There are a lot of tax benefits to forming an LLC. Everything that is a business expense while you're working, your 25 cups of coffee, your donuts while you're working, snacks, all kinds of office supplies, computers, your internet, your phone, all those things are business expenses and they go through the LLC as an expense. So if you bring in all kinds of money and it's going out as an expense, then you're not paying taxes on it. Whereas if you're an individual, if you're really, really good about keeping track of your it it's the same thing. It's still an expense, but it it can be very beneficial for that LLC. There is the upfront cost. The LLC is going to cost you some money, and you mentioned the publication requirements. There are ways to do those where it's not super expensive. And then I always recommend business owners policies. It's about $500 for a year, and that just covers something weird that happens. So if there's something really, really weird that happens, that's not going to be covered. But just a delivery person, or if you've got a client coming into your studio and they fall, you never know. So I'm a huge advocate of forming some type of entity, either LLC or an INC corporation. The DBA at the county level is not truly a separate entity, so that doesn't protect you from the standpoint of liability. Another thing is the LLC can, and we never want to talk about this, but the LLC or the incorporation can just declare bankruptcy. I'm not making any money, this is just not going anywhere, and then the LLC goes into bankruptcy, they discharge all their debts, and then you just walk away from it. Nobody ever wants to do that, but this is what attorneys do. It's called the parade of horribles.
A parade of horribles?
Yeah, that's what we do in our head. Everything, we think about everything that could go wrong. Related, there's a staggering number of depression in our career too. But that's what we do. So, and the idea is you go through the things that could happen and you guard against them.
For now, we are still in the beginning of our business, to start the new business. So how do we help us to make, like, to register to be a corporate? We need to go to the part of the corporate, and how we can protect, help us to protect our parents, not to be taken with other people or the competitors. That's my two questions.
I think the second question's easier. We can help you write the patent application and get the invention covered, probably under a provisional patent application. And the first...
It costs how much to do that?
What did you say?
How much to do that?
The provisional is probably around $2,000 to $2,500, the provisional patent application.
Patents are expensive.
Yeah. The non-provisional is more expensive, unfortunately. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And the first question was about
how to help us to get to register the corporate to our company.
to form an LLC or a corporation.
The corporation,
Yeah, we can help you with that. We do the paperwork for you. You guys select the name, and we kind of do the heavy lifting from there.
It costs the same amount?
No, the LLC or the corporation's a little bit cheaper. I think an INC incorporation is probably about $1,000. The LLC is maybe $1,200-$1,300 because of the publication requirements. So those are just...
How long,
Forming an entity takes a day or two. Yeah, it's fairly quick. So we work with people and we expedite it.
For the patent, takes how long?
A provisional patent application would probably take maybe a month or two to get everything on file, get all the information, get it on file. Sometimes we can do it faster if there's a need. Yeah. Non-provisional takes a little bit longer.
Yes, so I know you already went over copyright, so basically if it's on something that you can press play and listen to the audio, or it's recorded somehow, that's covered, but to enforce it, it's good to register with the Library of Congress and all that jazz. But I'm wondering if there's anything different to think about in terms of like digital downloads. So like if you have a page or a website where you're like, hey, download, like Bandcamp is a page where people download music or whatever, different things where, yeah, exactly. So, or like Patreon, people contributing to like your blog or your content that you're producing. As a regular content producer, is there a difference between digital audio versus digital visual content, and how to, I guess, kind of like keep your stuff safe, because it would, once it's on this website or this platform, it's gonna be so widely available.
That's
It's not like your Eminem that can
Right.
go like, oh yeah, you stole my song, like I'm gonna sue you for.
I'm gonna sue the, what was it, one of the political parties of New Zealand? Oh, you didn't hear that they what was it?
And like not.
I love New Zealand. What happened?
Look it up on the internet, but one of their political parties had a song and they called it M&esque. Just totally acknowledging that they knew that they ripped it off, and they sort of stole his hook from Lose Yourself, and they played it behind the scenes of their political ad. Eminem actually claims he didn't sue, somebody else sued, the music house sued.
Probably the production company.
And-
Yeah.
And they won, and the politicians were trying, oh, we've never heard that song. You called it M&S. So,
But how could they avoid that? They would just have to pay to use it?
yeah, you'd have to
Or
license
just
it. To answer your question, with the internet, copyright enforcement has gotten really, 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 really difficult. So many things, so many photographs can just be taken off of a website, drag it onto your desktop, print it up, sell it to 1,000 people. So
What about like watermarking? Like just
you can watermarking is one of the good things that you can do with photographs in terms of downloading or streaming music or video digital. I don't know what you can do to protect it. You do. There is a copyright. It attaches because the digital platform is a tangible form of
There's your
medium.
proof, right? Yeah.
You can register it, but if you put it up on some type of website, I don't know how you prevent somebody from watching it or.
There is an audio equivalent to the watermark, which is basically just putting an annoying sound every 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before.
There's
It's very annoying.
Premiumbeat.com. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then if you like pay for the thing, they'll actually
they
give you the
remove
real
that.
file.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a really great website though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get movie
Or
quality
like Pond
songs
5
for
with like
cheap.
stock footage. And
So
stuff
did
like
I
that.
answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of basically what I thought, but I figured that I would ask it anyway because I didn't know, I mean, with this being such an issue in the last, a little over the last decade.
It's all
Yeah, it's been an
It's-
issue for a
I know,
while.
exactly. So it's interesting to me to see if there's more that's evolving with the legal aspect of it. I mean, what's cool is, I'm thinking actually specifically about a site like Patreon, where I don't know if
Yeah, I
you're
don't
familiar
know
with
that
Patreon.
one.
Basically, it's for like content creators. So like if someone has a YouTube channel or something, or like a blog, and at the end of the video they're like, hey, if you want to support me making this content, like sign on to my Patreon, and you can pledge to like donate once a month to
Oh,
them,
yeah.
or like donate every time they come out with a new thing or whatever, up to a certain amount or whatever. So the more subscribers you have and the more people that want to pledge to your content, basically pay you to receive that content.
Yeah.
So it directly connects the artists to their audience, which is really, really nice. But then it also means that you have now a larger platform where more people could not only view your stuff, but potentially take it.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of just comes with the territory of
It's-
trying to get
yeah,
a global
it's just-
audience. So
It's just technology has gotten way ahead of
it's
copyright law.
changing much faster than people that.
It's shocking because everybody knows how fast the Congress works.
Shot.